Assimilation is survival, which doesn't excuse it or make it a good thing. Just contextualizes why so many white and white-passing immigrant Jews and their descendants in the mid to late 1800s and since have adopted the racist tenets of America in order to cultivate and perpetuate a creation myth that we could evolve beyond anti-Semitism and protect ourselves from harm. But this inherently anti-Black and anti-Indigenous practice, rooted also in an adjacent mythology that capitalism and wealth could protect us from anti-Jewish oppression or harm, only further ingratiated into the American fabric, as had been the case in Europe and the Middle East and Northern Africa and everywhere we wandered and tried to live and emigrate, but still often had to flee, that Jews are to blame. We Jews are a buffer people, regardless of our ethnicity or race. And so it's not anti-Semitism beyond which we need to evolve. It's assimilation. It's complacency. It's accepting that so many of us chose to assimilate into the imperialistic doctrines of a colonialist, racist, cishet patriarchal, ableist, capitalist, white evangelical Christian hegemonic in order to survive. That's been our undoing all along. In America, in Europe, in the Middle East, South Africa, Australia, Asia, Argentina, and at least for me and my ancestors here in the United States, the cost of our whiteness is erasure. And I reckon I'll be spending the rest of my life trying to piece back together the fractured disembodiment I inherited as a fourth generation born white Ashkenazi American Jew, which has included and includes the other myth and anti-Semitic cartoon tropes of what a Jew, quote, looks like, since not all Jews are Ashkenazi or white. And so in my ancestors and my white-passing assimilationist sprint into whiteness, we have also harmed Mizrahim and Sephardim and Arab Jews and Jews of color of all ethnicities and races, including Ashkenazi Jews who are not white, by taking these traditions of hierarchy to a devastating extreme. And so then, what is repair? What does it look like to heal and repent and transform? As part of a lineage that has built an annual atonement into the genetics of our traditional and historical body of ritual and prayer, what does it look like for me to embody my missteps along with my inherited trauma, which includes said aforementioned missteps, in order to embody my Jewish body? I often say my whiteness is subject to change, that my whiteness depends upon how much the Nazis and white evangelical Christian nationalists are in charge, their proximity to power, the swiftness with which they are eager to loudly or quietly let me die. I never bought into the assimilationist myth. Like I bought into it by blow-drying my curly hair straight almost every day until my late teens, and having an eating disorder for 10 years, although blaming it solely on assimilation overlooks the fact that an eating disorder is very much a mental illness, but also, like oppression, most certainly plays a role in teaching us to internalize anti-fat bias, and I was most certainly trying to fit an unattainable white Christian American ideal. And so, yeah, sure, I played the game. But I knew it was a myth. I knew it because plenty of my non-Jewish white friends growing up were anti-Semitic, whether they knew it or not. I knew it because my father taught me at a very young age to have my passport ready to go when they came for the Jews. I knew it because I have experienced anti-Semitism my entire life, no matter where I have lived or traveled to in the United States and in other parts of the world. And I knew it because I have never identified as a Zionist. Yes, I embraced Israel in high school when I went for spring break with my family and fell so deeply in love with the ancient history I felt I could touch. Like I sat on the ground with a scarf on my head as I wrote a letter to God and tore it out from my journal and then brought it to the cracks of the Western Wall. But that's because I have always been spiritual. I have always felt a connection to divinity and God. I have always felt connected to my Jewishness. I have always been drawn to history and origins and roots. That's why I majored in classical studies as an undergraduate in college. I liked Latin. I liked a mathematical language with syntax that could piece together like Tetris, my favorite, most beloved Game Boy game. But I also wanted to understand the origins of Western civilization. If I was going to commit my life to helping dismantle systemic oppression, I needed and wanted to understand how to cut it at the root. I think that we are all God. I think that we are all the God within. I think that God is a metaphor for unconditional love, and that we are all interconnected by an impenetrable and everlasting energetic force. And so I think that at its root, oppression comes from forgetting we are holy, forgetting we are all of us divine. And so on the first day, God created these binaries of heaven and earth, but still left space for twilight to signify the potency of liminality. I think we spend too much time and space worshiping duality rather than harvesting the uncertainty of the in-between. Liminality is my birthright. I am adorned with whiteness and white privilege, but I am still subject to easy, targetable murder simply for being a Jew. Sometimes I appreciate the simplicity of being called the K word. Like, just say what you mean. It's easier knowing what I'm up against. It's easier to cut off language at the root. Thank you.